I'm a 911 operator and some of our calls are strange. Hi, everyone. So, I had a few people asking about the legalities of 911 tracing phone calls to get the location of the caller. Yes, we have the equipment to trace calls, and we can do so without a warrant. The reason why we ask for an address is because it's faster and more accurate. Also, Greenbrier has a lot of areas with bad reception, and areas where electronics tend to act up. Sometimes we can trace a call and we will get a location miles away from the caller. It's often easier to just have the caller give an address if they are able. I have had more than a few messages asking about the raccoons in Greenbrier. Well, they're really more of a day shift occurrence, but I will say there is a very large box of reports on Jordan's desk dedicated towards them. On to the start of what might lead to an early retirement. The phone rang at 7:09 p.m. Much too early. It was going to be a long shift. Hello, Greenbrier 911, how may I assist you? The caller's breathing was fast and shallow. The fear in it oozed through my headset, giving me shivers. Hello? Hello? Please, I think I've been taken. Their rapid in- and exhaling increased in frequency. Okay, let's try and get our bearings here. Do you know where you are? I heard her shuffling about. I'm sorry, no. I don't know where I am. Or how long I've been here. Jordan began tracing the call as I kept the caller talking. Okay, we are triangulating your call right now. Who am I speaking with? Allison Studebaker. I woke up here. I was tied to a chair for a long time. I finally managed to get loose and call you guys. I glanced over at Jordan. His face was a wall of concentration. Okay, Allison, my name is Kylie. Could you do your best to describe your location? Yeah, so I'm in a room. Pretty small. Maybe 12 feet wide and twice that long. I heard something rubbing a coarse surface. The walls, floor, and ceiling are concrete. They're cool to the touch. Nearly damp. Maybe I'm underground? I heard footsteps. Okay, so other than the chair and rope, the room is empty. On one side, there's a pretty janky set of steps leading up to a steel door. It looks like something you would find on a ship. More footsteps came through as Allison walked around the room. Far wall from the door, there's a hole in the wall at floor level. It's pretty small. Well, not as small as I thought. I hear her get down to her knees. So even with my phone's flashlight, I can't see the back of it. It's like as tall as my head if I lay on the ground, but it's nearly 3 feet wide. It's a rectangle, maybe a vent or something. I glanced over at Jordan. He gives me a thumbs down. No location yet. Okay. Allison, we are still in the process of getting your location. Do you have any idea as to who would do this? Allison was quiet for a bit. No, I can't think of anyone. Honestly, I'm less worried about who and more about why. Like, let's be real here. This doesn't look good. She was right, but admitting that wouldn't help anything. Don't worry, Allison. We will get to you before anything happens. Just remain calm while we work things out on our end. I heard a sharp intake. Allison whispered into the phone. Kylie, someone is coming. I can hear them on the other side of the door. They're unlocking it. Please tell me it's the police. Shit. I kept my voice even as I replied, Allison, the police have not been dispatched to your location. It is safe to assume whoever is on the other side of that door is responsible for your situation. Crap! I heard frantic scuffling followed by a pained grunt. Allison? Allison, are you okay? What's happening? The sounds of struggling grew more panicked. Somewhere in the background a male shouted angrily. Allison screamed, panic filling her voice. I sat there helplessly as sounds of a struggle filled my ears. The sounds of fighting stopped. It was replaced by a rhythmic dragging sound. Finally, I heard a sob from Allison. She was alive. She cried into the phone, Please still be there, please. I'm here. Allison, I'm here. Are you okay? Allison sniffled loudly. No, I'm definitely not okay. She grunted in exertion, and more dragging sounds came through the speaker. Allison spoke up again. The door started opening. I ran and tried to crawl through the vent. It's super tight and I could hardly move. He grabbed my ankle, but I managed to kick free. I let her talk. She was clearly struggling to handle what she had just been through. It's so small in here. I have my arms stretched out in front of me and I can't turn my head. Gah, it sucks. I can't get a full breath of air. It's too tight. More shuffling. The only way I can move is by breathing out, then using my toes and elbows to wiggle forward. When I breathe in, I get wedged too tight. I guess I should be thankful. I've always been fairly flat-chested, but seriously, they couldn't have made it a couple inches bigger? I'm just going to keep scooting along, and I hope whoever that was isn't waiting for me at the other end. I spun in my chair to face Jordan. I threw my hands up. He mimicked my reaction. It's not working, Kylie. We can't find her. Keep her talking and get some clues. I knew it wasn't Jordan's fault, but Allison was counting on us. I realized I couldn't, her moving. Allison, are you okay? Yeah, just chilling for a moment. Scooting like this is pretty exhausting. You guys get a fix on my location yet? We're still working on it. Don't worry, though. We will help you every step of the way. She was quiet again. All I could hear was her short breaths. Kylie, can I ask you something? I leaned forward. Of course. She was still sniffling from time to time. Are you a local? Like born and raised here? I had a feeling as to where she was going with this. Yes. I've lived here my whole life. I didn't even leave for college. Allison grunted. It sounded like she was trying to shift about in the small area. Then be honest with me. Am I going to disappear? You should have been able to find me, right? The resignation in her voice was heartbreaking. Jordan was looking at me curiously. No doubt he wanted to hear my reply. Allison, I promise you there is no conspiracy here. We are doing everything we can to reach you. I swear I will not give up until we find you. The shuffling continued. Thank you. I hit mute. Jordan, we need something to give to dispatch. He turned his monitor so I could see it. Normally a call is triangulated, and with time the area gets smaller and smaller. This time we had a location pin. But it kept jumping. Every 5 to 10 seconds, it would hop to a completely different place. I don't know what else I can do, Kylie. We have nothing to go off of. Allison's voice broke through. Okay, so I reached the end of this tunnel. It looks like I can drop down into a room. It's not very far down. But the floor of the room is covered in water. There's no light, so I didn't know how deep it is. Hang tight. I'm going for it. I heard a splash, followed by a shocked yipe. Okay, wow. That was both deeper and colder than expected. There was a shiver in her voice. The water is nearly to my ribcage. It's really cold and really dark. I can't see the bottom. I'm carefully moving forward. I listened as she sloshed her way through the room. Everything is still concrete. The floor is slick under the water. There's some pipes running overhead. I don't see an end in either direction. The room is only 8 or so feet wide. All right, just keep us updated, Allison. Any bit of information could be important. Allison yelled out, The water level is rising. Oh shit, it's coming up fast. All I could hear was frantic splashing. Allison, talk to me. What's happening? She spoke, but it was muffled. I couldn't make out any of it. It felt like a lifetime passed, as all I could hear was the sloshing of water. Allison? Hello? The line disconnected. I hit the call back button, dread growing inside of me as the phone rang and rang. No answer. I tried twice more, and still got no answer. Jordan's head hung low as he took off his headset. Mark it and turn in the report when you're done. I wanted to lash out at him and his dismissive attitude. Right then the phone rang. You good to take this? Jordan asked. Ignoring him, I hit the answer button. Greenbrier 911, what? Kylie? Kylie, it's me. I'm out, but there's someone after me. I snapped my fingers at Jordan and he quickly joined the call. He yelled over to me, Keep her on the line. I've got a ping. She's somewhere in Darkwood. I'll get a patrol heading that way right now. All the despair I had been feeling was washed away by hope. We still had a chance to save her. Talk to me, Allison. What can you tell me? She was out of breath. It sounded like she was running. I'm in the woods, near a creek. I'm heading east if it's evening. There's someone following me. They aren't very fast, but they have dogs with them. I had the map book open to the Darkwood Park. The only substantial year-round stream was Occam's Creek. Listen carefully, Allison. Follow the creek downstream. There are officers on their way to you. If you pass a small waterfall, you'll know you're on the right track. Okay, I'm running down the creek, trying to lose my scent. Her words were coming out in gasps. She was exhausted. She needed to make it 10 more minutes. Keep pushing, Allison. Just make it to the trailhead. Just a little farther. At this point, Allison was hyperventilating. A foreboding feeling came over me. I could hear dogs through her phone. The police were still a couple minutes away. She needed to keep going. She had to keep trying. Allison cried out. She must have dropped the phone onto the ground. Multiple muffled shouts could be heard as well as barking, followed by a single gunshot. Everything was quiet. I jumped as the police radio on my desk crackled to life. We got the girl. She's safe. One suspect, male, red plaid shirt heading north, big feller, 6.5, 7 foot tall. Watch yourselves, he's got a double-sided axe. I had to rely on the police comms as Allison's phone shut off. From what I could pick up, she was tired and roughed up, but she was going to be okay. Sadly, I had to take a call about suspicious noises behind someone's house and couldn't continue listening. Sometimes the hardest part about this job is just not knowing what happens to those we talk to. Sorry about the long delay. Things have been really crazy. I was going to tell you all about my day shift experience, but then I realized I would have to explain why I was on day shift, which would have been simple, except for what happened Monday night. I've been kind of letting things simmer while I deal with it personally. I think writing it all out will be the best way to sort it out in my head. I think the best way to make sense of all this is to explain how our building is set up. And then I'm going to write things out in chronological order. The call center is located in a small, single-story, flat-roofed building a couple miles outside town. There is a grass strip about 20 feet wide between the building and the chain-link fence surrounding it. There is a rolling gate that is always open. At this point, I don't know if it even closes anymore, as it's pretty rusty. As you come through the gate, you'll find yourself in a gravel parking lot. There's a set of steel doors that lead into the lobby. The lobby is just a small room with a single unmanned desk and some chairs. No one has worked the lobby for as long as anyone can remember. Behind the desk is another set of double doors. You walk through those into a small chamber. You go through another set of doors and you'll be in the call center. The second set of doors won't open until the first set is closed. I don't know why it's like that, it just is. We have a bathroom, break room, and 2 offices lining one wall. There is 5 booths that us operators sit at along the other wall. The call center is never technically open to the public, but that doesn't stop the random person from coming by to voice a complaint in person. The supervisor has to let them in, though, as it requires a key card to get into our work area. I was packing up my things as my shift was about to end when we received a visitor. Jordan was saying something to them that I couldn't quite hear. He hit the button to unlock the doors. I sighed. The last thing I wanted to deal with was some entitled person telling me how poorly I did my job. The person that came through the doors was not the typical middle-aged Greenbrier citizen I had expected. It was a young woman, probably a few years younger than me. She had glossy red hair, an attractively pale complexion, and the brownest eyes I had ever seen. They were such a dark brown, it made whites of her eyes pop in contrast. I'm not bi or anything, but she was shockingly gorgeous. Jordan directed her towards me and went back to doing paperwork. She approached me somewhat hesitantly. "Hi. You don't really know me, but I wanted to thank you. Without your help, I wouldn't be here." I was surprised. I was expecting some sort of hostility. 911 operators don't get compliments. Yeah, you're welcome, for whatever it is I did." She laughed shyly. "Sorry, I should have introduced myself." She held out a hand. Allison Studebaker." I jumped to my feet. "Allison! Oh, thank goodness you're all right." She smiled. "Thanks to the lot of you I am. Without you guys I would have panicked in that room, and the police wouldn't have found me in time. You guys are heroes," he continued. "But that's not the only reason why I came down here. I want to join your team. I want to help people." My smile faltered. "Are you sure? It can be a pretty taxing job." She nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, no, I absolutely get that. But I just graduated and don't have any plans for college yet. I need to do something, and the pay here is surprisingly well. That's because the job sucks, said Jordan from behind me, causing me to jump slightly. He had an annoying habit of silently appearing places. He went on, If you are serious about applying, I can get you an application. Day shift started to arrive, so Allison and I moved to the lobby. Do you think they'll hire me? Allison asked. I thought about it. Despite Jordan's rudeness, he was equally aware of how understaffed we were. I think there's a good chance, I assured her. Later that day, I received a text from Jordan. Jordan, take tonight off, you're working day shift tomorrow. I was surprised. No one would have willingly volunteered for night shift. Me. What gives? Is someone sick? Jordan didn't reply for nearly an hour. When he finally did, I couldn't believe his reasoning. Jordan. Don't argue. Nick and I agreed hiring Allison is a good idea. She will be working the next couple night shifts. If she sticks around, we will bring her on full time. Andy has been doing this longer than you, so he will be working with her and you will cover his day shift. The decision has been made. Don't be late. I couldn't believe it. Jordan was going to throw Allison right into the fire. I wished I had her number so I could warn her, but I didn't. I arrived at 5:40 a.m. It had been a long time since I last worked day shift. I was early enough that I had to wait in the lobby. Once Jordan let me in, I saw Andy and Allison chatting away like old friends. Apparently the night had been a no-call night, and they had been sitting around for the past 12 hours. I made sure to grab Allison's number before she left. As I settled into my booth, Jordan was finishing up his paperwork. All of a sudden, I heard the familiar booming voice of Nick. Ho ho, if it isn't the long-lost Kylie! I stood, and he swept me into a bear hug. We've missed you, you little night owl. Nick's real name is Edwin, but his robust gut, massive fluffy beard, and jolly attitude earned him the nickname Saint Nicholas. Over time it turned into Nick, and he rolled with it. Chuck was behind Nick. Chuck was a timid guy, but he had worked here the longest, even longer than the previous supervisors. He simply gave me a nod before scurrying to his booth. I wanted to ask Nick why he would approve Allison for night shift, but the phone rang. I glanced over at Chuck and saw he wasn't set up yet, so I answered it. Nick gave me a wink and left to the office he shared with Jordan. Greenbrier 911, what's your emergency? A gruff male voice answered, Hi, I need someone removed. Okay, sir, let me get a name and address. He gave me his name and location. I sent it to the Greenbrier PD dispatch. The authorities have been alerted. Can you give me any details as to who the person is and why they need removing? The man grumbled something. I don't know his name. I need him gone because he doesn't belong here. The little bastard is just standing there across the street staring at me. Sir, if he is on public property, there won't be much we can do. The man sounded a bit irritated. You don't understand. I killed him. He shouldn't be here. Oh shit. Sir, are you armed? No, no, no. You don't understand. I shot him in the head. I killed him the 28th of July, 1953. He can't possibly be here. The pitch of the man's voice changed from anger to something akin to guilt. Our radio was broken. We didn't know it was over. I didn't know. He just walked out of the brush, so I shot him, just like the dozens before him. He can't be here. I covered him in dirt myself. Sir, I have officers a few minutes out. Remain calm and do not approach the figure. We will figure this out. It was like he couldn't hear me. He just kept babbling about how he couldn't have known. How they hadn't been in contact with anyone for days. How he should have noticed the smile on the man's face. How he was walking right towards them. I tried to get a word in but was cut off by a loud bang. I sat there. I knew what that sound had been, but I really didn't want to admit it. 10 minutes later, 2 officers arrived on scene and confirmed my fears. They found an elderly man dead on the sidewalk from an apparently self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. No one else was on scene. I had to step outside for a minute. Day shift having 2 operators meant we could actually do that. I went back inside and had a relatively calm rest of the day. Nick was extremely sympathetic and told me to take the next day off if I needed it. As tempted as I was to accept the offer, I wouldn't do that to Chuck. The calls might be more normal during day shift, but they were also a lot more frequent. Luckily, the next day was not nearly as heavy. I was surprised to see Jordan was there. Personally, I thought the 12-hour shifts were too long as is. But Jordan was always an hour early and often worked late, considering Nick has the same job and spends most of his shift socializing. I'm not sure what keeps Jordan so busy. The only call worthy of posting about came just after lunch. "This is Greenbrier 911, what?" An irate male voice interrupted me. "When are you going to fix this?" "Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down and explain. Those motherfucking raccoons were here again. Every day I have to deal with this crap. Am I going to have to fix this myself?" "Sir, I can get Animal Patrol there shortly. Could you explain the situation?" Finally, the man seemed to take a breath. "I got up this morning intending on getting my paper and going to work. Do you know why I didn't get my paper?" He was quiet long enough that I realized he expected a reply. Because you saw a raccoon?" "No, I'm not reading my paper because my damn mailbox is gone." I took notes. "Okay, and you believe raccoons are responsible for this?" I pulled the headset off as the man shouted at me. "I don't think I know. Just like the basketball hoop, my shoes, the porch light, this has to stop." Crazy people were a common occurrence, but so are aggressive raccoons. "Animal Patrol will be there shortly. Have you spotted any of the raccoons?" The man grumbled something I couldn't hear, then hung up. That call annoyed me more than it should have. I hate it when people hang up because they feel like we aren't doing a good enough job. After that, I was informed that I would be back on night shift the next week. Apparently, Andy threatened to quit if he had to continue working with Jordan. Sunday night started like any other shift. I showed up a few minutes early. I was surprised to find Allison already there and hooked up. She smiled when I walked in, but had someone on the line. Jordan beckoned me over. "Kylie, you need to double-check your reports. You had a call put into the wrong file while on day shift. Don't let it happen again. Now get hooked in. It's been a busy night already." He turned back to his computer. Clearly the conversation, if you could call it that, was over. A bit thrown off, I grabbed my headset and sat down. Sure enough, there was a call waiting for me, and then another and another. Allison and I fielded back-to-back calls until midnight. Throughout town, a crime spree had gone rampant, everything from broken windows to missing belongings. No witnesses, though, not a single sighting of who was causing all the mischief. Things finally calmed down around 3 a.m. At least I thought they had. It started with a pounding at the steel doors leading to the lobby. Jordan rolled his chair out of his office and peered quizzically at the doors. The banging turned into a metal-on-metal clashing. Jordan jumped to his feet. Someone was assaulting the door. Allison and I stood up as well. We both wanted a better look. I jumped back as I heard the outer doors come crashing down. Allison looked at me. "Kylie, what's going on?" I couldn't reply. A large dent appeared in the door. Spinning around, I hit the SOS button. I took Allison by the hand and pulled her to the bathroom. Pushing her inside, I turned to see Jordan standing, arms crossed, looking annoyed in front of the door. A crack grew as the double doors began to separate. "Jordan!" I hissed, trying to get his attention, but he just stood there. I ducked into the bathroom and locked the door. Allison pulled on my shirt. "Kylie, what in the hell is going on?" I shushed her, remained calm and quiet. Standing on my tiptoes, I could just barely see through the vent in the door. A few more blows brought the doors down. Allison tried to see as well, but there wasn't room. I gasped as a giant of a man entered the room. He towered over Jordan. He must have been nearly 7 feet tall. He had to duck under the doorway. He was dressed in a flannel shirt and suspenders, but in his hand was a massive, broad axe. Jordan spoke up in a calm voice. "Excuse me, but this is an employees-only area." The giant looked around the room. He was on a mission. The murderous lumberjack strode into the room. Jordan stepped in front of him. "I will not ask again. You need to leave." The man looked down at Jordan. He wrapped a mammoth-sized hand around Jordan's neck and lifted him into the air. The giant leaned in close. "Where is the girl?" Jordan kicked uselessly. "There is no girl. It's just me here." He walked further into the room, all the while holding Jordan off the ground as if he was a bag of groceries. Allison slid to the floor, her back to the door. She looked up at me, eyes wide with fear. "It's him, the man that took me." The giant slammed Jordan onto a desk. "I want the girl." Jordan pried at the man's fingers. "I told you. No one else is here." I watched in horror as the man brought the axe up to Jordan's face. Jordan stopped struggling. The man pressed the blade against Jordan's cheek. "Where is she?" Jordan winced. I could see a small line of blood forming along the edge of the blade. The man pressed it harder. The thin line turned into a steady stream. Jordan spoke through gritted teeth. "Like I said, I'm alone." My heart stopped. The man raised the axe up and paused. I heard it too, sirens approaching rapidly. Much faster than I would have thought possible, the giant threw Jordan to the ground and ran out the door. I could hear his thunderous footsteps fading away. I opened the door and ran to Jordan just as he sat up with a hand to his cheek. Blood was weeping out from between his fingers. Jordan stood on unsteady legs and tried to make his way to the first aid kit on the wall. I wrapped my arm around him, trying to help stabilize him. Jordan, just take a seat. I'll grab what you need." Ignoring me, he made his way to the white box. Opening it, he grabbed a gauze pad and pressed it against the wound. Finally, he looked to me. "Kylie, you should have stayed inside longer. He could have returned and found the two of you." I was flabbergasted, but I had no time to tear into him. Allison was reliving her recent trauma and the police were storming in. It took a bit of explaining, but the police ran outside in search of the lumberjack. Within 30 minutes, there was dogs on the trail, and an hour later, a helicopter joined the hunt. They didn't find him. Allison was too shook up to drive herself. After finding out her parents were out of town and she was alone, I insisted she come stay with me for the next couple days. At first she turned me down, but I kept at it, and she finally relented. We managed to get a police escort to her place. While she gathered what she would need, they searched the house. Unfortunately, they did find some signs of forced entry. I didn't tell Allison. Allison is sleeping on my couch as I type this. She finally passed out after a half-dozen movies. I'm not too proud to admit I'm scared. That dude is still out there, still hunting for Allison. Any advice?